Hey, I'm so glad you've joined me. This is our second episode in our series on setting boundaries and leadership. Let's dive in. Hey, by the way, if you happen to miss the previous episode, don't worry. You can watch the other episodes and a lot of other series that I've done by subscribing here to my YouTube channel or just by following me on social media. It's a great way to get inspiring tools and motivation to really face your day and conquer burnout. I have an amazing mentor in my life, and she is a woman that I worked for when I was in the world of education. And she had this quote that she used to say regularly to me, which is that an organization cannot rise above the constraints of its leader. I'm going to say that one more time because it's important. An organization cannot rise above the constraints of its leader. Now, I want to talk about this idea of setting boundaries and leadership. And I want to talk about it a little bit from this educational perspective. And the perspective is this, is that when you and I were born, when the way our brains formed, is that we have these things called mirror neurons. There's a part of us that actually reflects back what we see from others. So if you ever hold a baby and you look at a baby and you smile at it and you make the little goo goo gaga sounds and the baby looks at you and eventually the baby will begin to smile. So when you look at it, it'll smile back. I used to do this as a funny experiment with kids. I would just get a big goofy grin on my face and I just would smile at them. And eventually one kid would start smiling and then another kid would start smiling. And it was hilarious to watch because we start to mirror one another. But I want to talk about that in terms of leadership because organizations cannot rise above the constraints of their leader. So if you as a leader will not set boundaries on your time, if you as a leader will not take appropriate breaks to rest and get rejuvenated, if you as a leader won't do the boundary setting that you need to do, what you'll discover is that the people underneath you who are following you, they will mirror you for good or for bad. It's like this for a lot of things actually. Let's take, for one instance, gossiping. If you as a leader set the tone by gossiping and not setting boundaries around that, and you talk about others behind their backs, what you'll find is that others will begin to do the same thing. It's literally monkey see, monkey do. So this is my big takeaway. This is a very short and direct episode for you. But it's this, is if an organization cannot rise above the constraints of its leader, what are your constraints? What are the areas where you need to set some boundaries, either for yourself, for rest and rejuvenation so that you can be at your best, or maybe some areas where you need to set boundaries on habits that you have that might be eroding your culture. If you can look honestly at yourself and set powerful boundaries and really get some feedback from others so that you can be able to grow yourself, then what you'll see is that your organization will begin to rise with you as you take care of yourself and as you do what you need to do to be able to grow. It actually helps everyone to grow with you. And on a final note, there's a really great quote by this lady named Gina Greenlee, and she says, "Honoring your own boundaries is the clearest message to others that you honor them too." So when you think about this idea of an organization not being able to rise above the constraints of its leader, when you set boundaries, what you're really saying to everyone else is boundary setting is a healthy part of leadership and being a healthy person so that you can come and perform at your highest level.